My name is Leo Myron, and I'm an 18-year-old guy on self-improvement from Stockholm, Sweden. I discovered the concept of NoFap back in 2022, so about 3 years ago, and I struggled with it for a long time. I relapsed multiple times a week on average for about 2.5 years straight. And it was only earlier this year, in about May, April, that I was actually able to overcome this issue. And since then, I actually haven't even fapped once, which I'm very proud of. I'm very grateful for the progress that I've made. And my mission now is to bring this kind of transformation to the boys that are watching my content, the boys that are around the world in the trenches of this issue, that are dealing with temptations and urges on a daily basis, that don't really know what to do, they feel kind of lost. They are quite disciplined and ambitious people in general, but sometimes they just fall into these mini ruts and ultimately relapse on NoFap, if you want to call it that. That's how I used to be, at least. I used to be like disciplined David Goggins mode for the vast majority of my day. I used to go to the gym, take cold showers, do martial arts, try to start some side hustle, meditate, go on walks in nature, reject degeneracy, not eat junk food. But then I would have these pockets of time a couple times a week for a couple of hours when I would just indulge and I would fall into these like mini ruts and I would start fapping basically, because I would get into this sort of lower energy mode, lower frequency mode, and it would be really annoying because it would happen consistently. I wasn't even sure what to do really. And so in this video, I want to talk to you about the number one habit that is responsible for developing my willpower. In order to quit fapping, the only two things that we need are willpower and setting up our environment for success. So basically, the less urges you get, multiplied by how strong your willpower is, that is how many times you will relapse. So for example, if you have no willpower whatsoever and you get a bunch of like temptations and urges every single day, you scroll on fucking Instagram and see a bunch of fit gym girls doing their glute day and stuff, then you're going to be very likely to fap. But then if you have immense willpower and you basically don't even get any cues, you've deleted all the fucking social media apps, you don't think about that stuff at all, you don't see provocative things, then you're going to be so much less likely to fap. You can probably imagine that. And so in this video, I want to talk to you about specifically the willpower aspect. So willpower is specifically the ability to say no to your desire. So you're motivated to do something, you want to do something, but you act against it, you resist. Discipline is actually the sort of opposite, or not the opposite, but the sort of equal opposite, the other side of the coin, which is to persist, to do something that you're not motivated for. But for NoFap, we specifically need willpower. And so the number one habit that has developed my willpower the most is something called meditation. If you've been in the self-improvement space for a while, you've probably heard of meditation, but you might not be consistent with it. Because if you were, and truly took it seriously, then I could pretty much guarantee that your NoFap struggles would be way less than they are right now. And so in terms of meditation, let me explain to you what it is. Meditation is a process, a mental practice, if you want to call it that you do with your eyes closed, breathing in and out, focusing on your breath, just directing all of your attention to your breath. This is at least how I do it. You can focus on anything that occurs in the present, but I think the breath is the easiest one. And so I focus on my breath. I direct all of my attention to my breath. And whenever I realize that my mind has wandered, when my mind has started thinking about something else, that guy from high school, that bitch from the gym, that thing that I saw online the other day, whenever I realize that my mind has started wandering and sort of started thinking about some random stuff, I'll be like, whoa, I'm supposed to be meditating right now. I'm not supposed to be thinking about this. And then I will redirect my thoughts, my attention to the original thing that I thought of, which was my breath, manually. And so the more times you go through the cycle of meditation, which might not seem fucking very dopaminergic or enticing or whatever, but I'm not trying to give you some fucking sweet cookie right here. Like it can be quite a brutal process because you have to raw dog the fucking boredom. It can be really difficult if you like the more fucked up your attention span is, the more difficult it will be to meditate. But on the other hand, meditation is also the antidote, the kryptonite of bad attention span. And so the more you meditate, like for example, you do 10 minutes a day, when you do that consistently, you'll realize that first of all, you'll be a lot more present throughout your day, but also your mind, in terms of your willpower and your attention span, and your ability to think about whatever you want to think about, like to choose your own thoughts, will be way higher. So for example, if you get a bunch of urges, let's say you're in bed at nighttime and it's cozy, it's warm, you're basically naked, it's the perfect environment for sex, and let's say you grab your phone and you see some fit gym girl on your Instagram feed. What happens then is that your brain gets the idea of fapping. You get a cue, C-U-E, cue, which is kind of like the starting point of the whole habit cycle, the whole fapping loop. And so you get the cue, and normally that then leads to the craving, which is that you want to start fapping. You get the desire to fap. And then normally, if you don't meditate, if you don't have any willpower, you will respond to the craving, which is the third step in the cycle. Like you will get the cue, then you will get the craving, and then then you will respond, which is that you act upon the desire. You do whatever your desire wants you to do, or we don't have to anthropomorphize it that way, but basically you act upon whatever you're feeling, like you act it out, which is not what we don't want to do in this scenario, right? And then also you get the reward afterwards, and you sort of, the entire loop is reinforced. And so the next time you get the original cue, you're going to be more likely to fap because you've been rewarded for doing it in the past. And so this is one loop, but meditation and willpower, it will separate the second and the third step. So the craving and the response. You will get the craving, you will get the cue, you will get the ideas of fapping in your mind, but you won't indulge in them. You'll be able to think about whatever else you want to think about. Instead of indulging, instead of fantasizing about fucking this gym girl or whatever, right? Before you end up jacking off to her or some shit, you can actually just manually think about something else that would be way more conducive to you reaching your goals in terms of this stuff. Like for example, you might think of some wholesome stuff, your gym progress, or like obviously first of all you gotta put your phone away and go to bed, right, and turn all the lights off. But then you might still have some lingering thoughts about this gym girl, for example. But then you can actually use your skill, the skill you've developed through meditation, of willpower, through thinking about something else. You might, for example, think about some happy memory that you have, and you start, like, you actually start smiling a bit in bed and stuff, because you find it so funny and stuff. Like, you'll be so much less likely to fap if you can actually just choose what to think about instead of letting your sort of automatic thoughts conquer you. And this is the exact ability that we train with meditation. When we sit down and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 60 minutes of meditation, and go through this loop of thinking about something, let's say your breath, then your mind wandering, and then you realize that your mind has wandered, because it'll be a little gap between those two steps, and then you bring your focus back to the original thought. The more you do that, the better you'll be equipped to, when the urges inevitably come, to think about something else. And so you will not fap unless you fantasize about those kinds of things. At least for me, I wouldn't just randomly start fapping out of nothing. I would get the cue, I would get I would see some girl, right? And then I would get the thought. Maybe even a couple hours later, I would, because I've already supplied my brain with that kind of thought. And so I would get a random thought, and then I would start fantasizing about it, because on a conscious level, we shouldn't fap. We know that we shouldn't fap. But the more we indulge in this sort of thought, the more likely we are to sort of ultimately relapse. And so, because you're literally making your brain make the decision of whether or not to fap constantly over and over again. So, like for example, if there's a 5% chance that when you get a cue, when you start deciding within you that should you fap or not, that you actually fap, then if you do that 20 times, then it is statistically probable that you will fap, if you get what I mean. And so if we can just stop thinking about that kind of bullshit when the thoughts arrive, if we can manually decide what to think about ourselves, then this kind of stuff is so easy, because you just don't allow yourself to fantasize about the stuff that will ultimately lead you to fapping and relapsing. And so if you have never meditated before, the way I recommend going about it is doing exactly the process that I outlined, just sitting down in a quiet environment where you're not going to get interrupted, maybe in nature, maybe in your room or whatever, maybe at the library. And then you simply go through this process of thinking about your breath, and then You do the actual physical like motions. You breathe in and out, and you try your darnest, your best to just think about your breath, to direct all your attention there. And then your mind will wander, which is totally fine. Don't get upset at that. If your mind wanders every 3 seconds, that's perfect. Doesn't like that's literally the point. We need to do that. You need to hit failure in the gym in order to grow muscle, right? You need to challenge yourself. You need to drain your willpower in order for it to come back stronger. And so you start mind wandering, and then when you've realized that your mind has wandered, you bring your focus back to the original thought. And that's literally it. And the more times you do that, the more XP you get, the more sort of skill you develop of this thing. And so you can start with 60 seconds, you can start with fucking 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then gradually work your way up to 10 minutes of quality meditation every single day. You can even go beyond that. You can go 20 minutes. I've started doing an hour a day, like an hour straight, which if you've never done that before, then chances are you'll get pretty fatigued. Like if you've never meditated before and you try to do 60 minutes just off the bat like that, then chances are you will probably get quite mentally sort of drained, and you won't really get the benefits. You might just fucking start hating meditation because you've meditated for so long and it's so fucking boring and shit. But yeah, that's what I'm currently doing, and I have progressively overloaded to this point. And so that's one of the best habits, the most fundamental habits in this entire journey, at least for me. And I really, really want you to get into this stuff, because when you do it, you will realize that it's such a fundamental habit that literally everyone should be doing. Like, it's so potent. Like 10 minutes a day is fucking nothing, right? But you can gain so much from it mentally, and like your discipline, your willpower, and that kind of stuff. You become so much more aware of your thoughts. Instead of thinking that you and your thoughts are one, that you are your thoughts, that you have to indulge in your thoughts, that you have to act upon them, you separate yourself from the thoughts and you sort of become the observer instead of the indulger, if that makes sense. And the more you can do that, the less prone you will be to these kinds of fapping cues, fapping temptations, because you'll be able to separate yourself, your own actions, your own behavior from what you're feeling, which is an incredible skill to have. And so yeah, man, on this journey as well, I think social accountability is incredibly important. And so that's why I made a free school community, which is kind of like a Discord server on steroids, which you can find in the link in the description. There's a whole fucking 2.5 hour course protocol for free that you can watch and learn from, like literally step by step, my entire NoFap blueprint and everything that I've learned on this journey, like that I've been on for over 3 years, and successfully so for about 6 months. And so yeah, man, you can have a look at that, and hope to see you inside, bro.